Whatever rocks your socks, whatever spins your top, whatever winds your watch, whatever flips your flop, whatever turns you on, whatever flies your flag, whatever bangs your gong, or whatever swings your bag. Do it often, but do it well, 'cause nobody knows and there's no way to tell when the ride ends.
It was hot enough to grow orchids in a tranny's tuck the day somebody shot Dana at Boontongs. I was covering the Phuket beat for Mangled Corpse magazine, and I got the call from General Meechai O'Malley of the Royal Thai Tourist Police. O'Malley's father was a Royal Grenadier Guard, so the general had been educated at Eton and spoke the King's English. This saved a lot of time when I needed to deliver exposition. He owed me a favor from my days on the force. Yeah, I used to be a flatfoot, a Seamus, John Law, 5-0, Tom Lewitt. But they don't let you keep your badge and gun after you accidentally shoot a tourist and then stab him. So now I carry a pen and a notepad. I still chase the bad guys, but I do it for 3 baht per word. Well, that and the free pens. After O'Malley filled me in on the tragic demise of Dana and the Gatoi he was meeting at Boontongs, I hopped a tuk-tuk over to the SkyTrain. I rode to Sukhumvit and climbed into a meter taxi that took me downtown to Plunjit. To make sure I wasn't being followed, I dodged down a couple back alleys and caught a passing elephant at Promthep Cape. The moon was just rising over Doi Suthep when I climbed down off the elephant at the gates of the Klai Kangwon Palace. I turned right in the shadow of the Big Buddha on Walking Street and jumped in a Samloa for the last 100 yards to Tomyang Beach and Boontongs. I kept one eye closed for 30 seconds before I went in, so that eye would already be accustomed to the dark. It's something my dad taught me before he was killed in the Boer War. He said that's why pirates wore eye patches. If you were going to chase a man below decks with a cutlass, you wanted to be able to see down there. Dad worked the water taxis of Lower Manhattan for 30 years before the black lung killed him in the Boer War. As I walked in through the moon gate, I closed my outside eye and opened my inner eye. The place was dressed up like a brothel at the North Pole, like the place where Santa hangs out the other 364 nights in a year. A handful of women, some actually women, and some of those sober, and at least 2 of those attractive, milled around the room aimlessly, bumming smokes off the punters and calling each other giant lizards. Some were dressed like schoolgirls, some like secretaries, some like rock stars, and some barely at all. There were a few men in the room, their faces obscured by cigarette smoke, dim tavern lighting, and a universal expression of senior citizen ennui. It was the nightly convention of the world-weary, this particular night hosting their friends, the hopelessly jaded. Every man in the room wore shabby, sun-faded clothes and some kind of footwear that exposed toenails that had gone too long untrimmed. Each cheek was pasty. Every jowl was damp. Eyes were downcast or darted nervously around the room. It was common to see a man reach behind him to make sure his wallet was still there. Some were alone, eyes on that door, obviously in that "I'll give her 5 more minutes" place. Some were in groups of other men, all of them leaning in and shouting above the din of Christmas carols and "Ee man hia." Some of the men were circling the room, trying to catch a woman from a good angle. One couple in a corner were violently arguing, pushing each other back and forth, and 30 seconds away from the first punch, with even money on which of them would throw it. Every man in the room was obviously miserable. every one of them carrying some personal burden of guilt or pain that weighed them down like leaden boot amulets. But ask any one of them and he'd tell you he's here because it's fun. These are men who had given up wives, children, careers, and reputations to be here. They were men who would rob a bank to stay here or kill somebody. Of course, Dana might have been killed for a million reasons. The man had enemies. Now that O'Malley had dropped this in my lap, the cops would be sitting back, waiting for me to solve the case. They'd relax, iron the pleats in their uniform pants, place a few boxing bets, watch a little CSI Miami. They love that show. White women are so tall and kind of scary. It was a feeling shared by every man in Boontongs. My hunt for clues began with the bartender. To be honest, if I'm looking for my socks in the morning, the hunt begins with the bartender. The bartender at Boontongs is a half-Thai, half-Chinese bull dyke named Angry Tom. "Hey, Tom," I said, introducing some suitably gritty dialogue into the narrative. "Hello, sexy man. What you want, think?" "Why are you talking that way?" "Oh, I thought it would be more atmospheric if I spoke in some exaggerated, bordering on comical pidgin English." "Well, stop it, Tom. You're creeping me out." "Okay, sorry. I was just trying to help." She wiped a desultory bar rag across a stoic bar. "So what are you drinking?" "Nothing, but I'd love to bum a smoke." I moved to the end of the bar while Tom dug a cigarette out of her purse. I let my eyes run around the room on curious little cat paws. When Tom brought my smoke, I figured she would be my best shot at finding out anything. She stuck the cigarette in my mouth and gave me a light. I was becoming impatient, having worked an already thin premise to an extreme. I took a long drag on the cigarette and made significant eye contact with Angry Tom. "What do you know about the shooting in here tonight?" Tom's face became as hard as a blob of Darlie toothpaste caked on the edge of a Nana Hotel sink. She looked around to see who might be listening. When she decided we weren't being overheard, she hissed at me, "Screw you! Get out of my bar!" I wasn't offended. This is a bar on Phuket, and not one of your classy soy bangla bars. This was Boontongs, the place where violence and rage went to cheat on their wives, where a punch in the jaw meant, "It's your round, mate." My point is, Dana had been shot in here tonight, and the only person who was expressing any interest in finding his killer was me, a punch-drunk ex-con, ex-prizefighter, ex-cop, ex-talk show host, ex-president of Liberia. But still, Tom and I went back a long way, all the way back to the Boer War. It was unusual for her to fix me with a steely glare and hiss a profanity in my face. "Whoa there, big fella," I said. "Why are you acting like a woman all of a sudden?" "You wannabe authors make me sick," she said. "You've sucked all the syrup out of the bar girl snow cone. So now you're trying to market it by making a connection to a legit genre, a connection that's tenuous at best. Commercial sex is tawdry and dirty and tragic, and it's almost ice hockey in its mindless two-dimensionality. It has nothing in common with a genre that explored, with irony, the deepest themes of man's existence through a framework of well-worn detective tropes." Can we please go back to the pidgin English? "Forget it, man. Look, why can't all you expat writers just face it? It's been done, okay?" Tom suddenly realized there had been a lot of dialogue without any physical description, so she angrily threw her bar rag down on the counter. As much as can be said about Thailand prostitution has been said. You dig me? And now that every yabo with a word processor and a free weekend can publish a novel, it's been said over and over and over and over. Badly. So give it up. Stop trying to rebrand a condom as a sheep's bladder. And stop tarnishing the memories of Raymond Chandler and Humphrey Bogart. Look, I'm just trying to find the guy who shot Dana. Can you help me or not? Tom sighed. Okay. Go down to the waterfront, Pier 13. There's a big warehouse with gold-painted doors. Find the Chinaman. Yada, yada, yada. Don't tell him I sent you, blah, blah, blah. That's all I'm saying. With that, she turned her broad, muscular back on me. It was okay, though, because I had a lead. My first solid lead of the case. I picked up my fedora off the bar and set it on my head at a rakish angle. Yeah, I had a hat when I came in. Didn't I say so? Oh well, I had this hat, and I put it on, careful to dip the brim down over one eye. I left Boontongs by the back door and moved from shadow to shadow, down the beach, in the moonlight.
Whatever rocks your socks, whatever spins your top, whatever winds your watch, whatever flips your flop, whatever turns you on, whatever flies your flag, whatever bangs your gong, or whatever swings your bag. Do it often, but do it well, 'cause nobody knows and there's no way to tell when the ride ends. Enough of this nonsense.